Couple of whacks to my good old boy Gut's gonna get me down.
Just like a tree that's planted by the water.
He's perjured himself, Your Honor. He knows damn well exactly what it said.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
Cicellini, wait a minute. Why should you and I fight? Let them kill each other, and you and I will share the world.
Ah, that's of the spirits.
Shake! That shows you can't trust me. Hey, Puddinhead, quick!
I'll tell you who took those lunches. That damn Sasquatch.
哇，太漂亮了！这就是天池啊！一年365天，只有60多天能看着啊！哇，这就是天池！
You play that thing and people give you the money.
People give the monkey the money.
It is the same.
Oh, not at all, monsieur. I am a musician and the monkey is a businessman. He doesn't tell me what to play and I don't tell him what to do with his money. How do you know so much about city ordinances?
What sort of stupid question is that? Are you blind?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Yes, yes. Yes, of course. Well.
The same kind of ELF waves at much lower frequencies to carry out his search. It's a process called Earth tomography. But during one particular incident, Dr. Agnew believes his use of HAARP-like ELF waves accidentally triggered an earthquake.
It was in the spring of 1987 we arrived in Roseburg, Oregon to use our ELF technology to search for oil and gas. Setting up that day, we had a little bit different results than we expected because the instant that we energized it, there was between a 4 and 4.5 on the Richter scale earthquake that occurred. We were so amazed about what seemed to be cause and effect. We get to an area that has a high propensity for earthquakes, in an area known as the megathrust of the Pacific Northwest. We turn it on, and an earthquake occurs.
Dr. Agnew demonstrates how he may have triggered the quake.
This is a scale model of what the area looked like in Oregon when we scanned for oil and gas in 1987. This strata right here represents the megathrust area underneath the ground. The rock represents the potential energy set up in the ground from a tectonic stress. What we're going to do is introduce ELF waves and demonstrate that it can in fact trigger an earthquake.
In this case, Dr. Agnew is using a stereo speaker to produce the ELF waves needed for his demonstration.
ELF waves, extremely low frequency waves, are just like a subwoofer. In your car, you can actually feel the vibrations through your body. ELF waves are the same way. They vibrate the earth, and at right resonant frequencies, they can have devastating effects.
When the speaker is activated, ELF waves begin to emit. Tiny vibrations in the sand are detected. Then a few seconds later, the rock representing the fault line shifts.
As you can see, in a very few seconds, the resonant frequency built up in our model released the potential energy in the rock. That concussion, on a real scale, would have been felt for 100 miles. These conditions are already set up in the ground. All it takes is the activation energy to make the release happen. This is a small scale, and we're only using 30 watts in this scale.
When HAARP's broadcast array in Gakona, Alaska sends pulses of ELF waves into the ionosphere, the waves get reflected back down and pass through the earth and ocean. If 3.6 million watts of ELF waves were purposely or accidentally aimed at an already unstable fault line, it could.
Ionosphere to do active experiments in the ionosphere. The ionosphere is a layer that surrounds the Earth at about 100 kilometers up to maybe 2,000 kilometers. It's important for a lot of things like satellite communication. Any kind of radio signals that pass through the ionosphere are affected by the ionosphere. Each of these trailers you see around me have transmitters in them. The transmitters feed power from the main building over there up into these dipole antennas. And basically there are 180 antennas radiating high frequency waves up in the ionosphere. It's a big ham radio, a big HF radio, the biggest in the world. Fundamentally what this is about is taking the ionosphere at 100 kilometers up and turning it into a laboratory. We can do experiments. We can create bubbles. We can heat small sections. We can create waves. We can excite plasma resonances and do a lot of experiments. We can transmit signals all around the world. We can study the effects of the ionosphere. It basically makes the ionosphere a laboratory, and we can do experiments that no one else can do. It's a laboratory without walls.
In conjunction with HAARP, by spraying metal oxides into the air above enemy skies, then directing ELF waves from HAARP to heat those metal oxides, the temperature of the sky is raised to more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, preventing the accumulation of water vapor that would otherwise form clouds and produce rainfall. The ELF waves HAARP produces bounce off the ionosphere and are able to curve around the Earth over the horizon to the ground, making any point on the globe well within reach.
One of the dangers in spreading chemtrails is that it acts as a desiccant and further dries the air. In other words, these chemical particulates can dry up the atmosphere and induce.
So what we've done is we've got a cloud generator up here. It's an ultrasonic nebulizer. It's going to create real water particles just like you would find in a cloud. What we're seeing now is we're actually filling this chamber with microscopic water particles. You can see that it's almost completely filled with water vapor. It's beginning to condense a little bit on the sides, just so that you can see the detail. We've got a nice dense fog, just like you were sitting inside a cloud at 50,000 feet.
At the bottom of the cloud chamber, Dr. Agnew has constructed an ELF wave transmitter, a miniature version of HAARP.
We're only using 100 watts. It's perfectly safe.
When Dr. Agnew turns on the ELF wave transmitter and begins shooting ELF waves into the simulated cloud, the cloud begins to move up to the top of the chamber, taking the moisture with it.
If you get down low enough, you can actually see a clear layer above the antenna. It is actually pushing these water particles up, and that's exactly how HAARP works. What we've done is we've not only pushed the cloud off of the HAARP antenna, but as you can see, our cloud is almost completely gone inside.
I've gotten great value out of HAARP in the past. We took over from the Navy and managed it and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HAARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed.
Where's that jet stream under the rest of the ship?
It must be the jet stream up on top. Because them clouds are staying right there.
Oh, okay, it's on top. Okay, that's weird.
And the other low clouds are staying still. But the ripple, the chemtrail effect up there is moving like... That's...
Vamos 9 de Surfline.
Европейскими центральными банками, которые в 2008-2009 годах реализовали лишь 155 тонн металла при квоте 500 тонн. С начала года золото подорожало уже на 18%, а с сентября прошлого года...
This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And, as it turns out, the cleanest.
Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you! It's raining! That's unbelievable! Oh. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
Programs, experimental ones done by private companies, done by the United States government, done by states across the United States are underway. There's more than 50 of them in operation across the United States. There are programs around the world. International corporations are modifying our weather all the time, and they're modifying it in ways that cover thousands and thousands of square miles. Most of it is chemically altered, so that what happens is that we are putting chemicals, ground-based chemicals that are shot into the air, or chemicals coming from airplanes that change and modify our weather.
Job. Firing chemicals into the clouds in a controversial attempt to modify the weather.
According to the World Meteorological Organization, 52 countries have a weather modification program. Insurance companies, like ones in Alberta, fund cloud seeding projects in order to lessen damage claims they receive.
You could do it for reducing hail. They've tried it on hurricanes to modify hurricanes to reduce the intensity of hurricanes.
To do that, pilots target clouds full of moisture and eject small amounts of an inert chemical